party, we have to embrace innovation. And over the last 8 years, we've kind of made a few steps forward, a few steps back, and haven't had a coherent, gung-ho innovation policy, I don't believe. And I think that that's something that our party really needs to take into account and think about seriously. Sometimes we see certain innovations going against principles that we hold to be important. But I think it's important, when you're thinking about innovation policy, to think practically. I'll give you an example. Let's take the example of Japan in the 14 and 1500s. It was one of the first societies ever to have firearms. And they had firearms, and you can see over the course of many different historical events that firearms were key to one society staying alive against another. And the samurai in Japan, who we all admire, convinced the people of the country to outlaw firearms. And so they were living in a great society, but they weren't embracing the most cutting-edge technology. So in the 19th century, when Perry sailed into Tokyo Harbor, the Japanese were able to be subjugated very easily. Now, there's a lot of honor in the samurai culture, but if you're not embracing the most cutting-edge technology, whatever it is, you stand to lose at some point. And I think that our country is lucky enough to have the best and the brightest still flocking to our shores to learn and to innovate and to create new things. And people are worried about us staying competitive, but I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful because think about it this way. 20 years from now, how are you going to go and buy a car? Are you going to go and into the dealership? Maybe. There's a possibility that you're just going to go onto a website. You're going to interact with someone talking to you on that website, something automated. Say, I don't know, a Corvette with, I don't want the bucket seats, I want a seat across. You'll be able to change whatever you want that car to be based on what you do on that website. And then something automated will build that car, and you'll be able to drive it. It'll be delivered to your house 3 weeks later. In that case, we're not losing out to other countries because the value add that a lot of places we're thinking about competing against right now, the value add there is their cheap labor. And with our ability to automate and to create new technologies, it is going to be us that's going to take back the mantle of progress and innovation over the next few years, and America will stay ahead. But it relies upon us embracing innovation and making sure we put policies in place that are going to spur growth. So I look forward to taking your questions. My grandmother always told me that she had gone from here to here, and if I didn't go from here to here, that there was something wrong with me. And I pray often that I have it in me to work as hard as she did. And I look forward to working with you over the next few years to achieve our great future. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
How do we unify the Republican Party? I mean, there's a lot more. I think a bigger rift between conservatives and moderates and liberal Republicans than there are between Republicans and Democrats.
Absolutely.
We've got a bunch of politicians on an ego trip. We've got to bring it back together.
Yeah. My best suggestion is we start winning. We start winning from the local level, state level, and then up to the national level. Everybody loves a winner. And I think you'll see that the people who win are the people who are practicing good government and are really inspiring people toward the cause that is the Republican Party. And so I think really working over the next couple of years from the ground up to field good candidates and put them forward and make sure that they're talking about the right things, that's going to unify us behind what those core principles are. I think thinking about it in the abstract can get us off on different tangents, and we should just focus on the task at hand.
What do you think about the governor's race?
It's going to be an interesting race. Corzine is going to spend a lot of money. Chris Christie is a great public servant, as are the other gentlemen who are running against him for the nomination. And I think it's going to come down to what happens in President Obama's first first few months, and whether we see some economic turnaround based on what he's proposing, and whether his his honeymoon with the nation continues. I think even though he's not going to be up for election, Governor Corzine is going to be riding his coattails to a certain extent. Yes, sir.
Now, I lost something there when you were talking about trying to attract the Latinos
Yeah.
by being conservative socially, okay? And really, we have to be conservative fiscally at this point. The government has indeed got entirely out of hand. It's too big. How do you tell someone that you want to cut back the size of government, especially we have a large amount of Latinos being employed now in government?
Right.
That is a true contradiction. How do you overcome that?
Well, I think it comes down to really engaging people personally on one level, and making sure that they feel like they're part of the process. I know that in my experience on the campaign, talking to people who normally wouldn't be Republicans, were always very excited when someone had reached out to them and were willing to do things based on that interaction. So I think it starts really at the bottom level, on the ground level, and we can work its way up. I think that the people who are in office right now and who hold different appointed positions, we're probably not going to be able to change them. But there are a lot of people, independents, who are waiting to be inspired. You have a question?
Just wondering whether real estate taxes would get to the point that people would cry out that they had to change, and otherwise they would start losing their homes, they can't pay these taxes here.
Right.
And, highest in the nation thing. If Trenton can't assist the municipalities, I'm not sure how they're going to close the gap.
No, I understand. And that was something we just couldn't understand why it didn't catch on in New Jersey already. 750,000 people have left the state in the last few years because of the taxes. I think it will reach a breaking point. Maybe it'll be before this governor's election. If not, it'll be, hopefully we won't have to worry about Corzine anymore. But I think that a breaking point is coming for folks, and just not wanting to deal with it anymore.
I think we're at the breaking point.
I hope
I
so.
really do. I think that, personally, when you have a $2 billion deficit in the local, in the current budget year, and facing a $5 billion deficit next year, we are at that point. I mean, there is going to be very significant cuts, and after watching the first year of what happened through this budget season, I can tell you where they're going to go right back to, that is suburban and rural areas, steal more money out of municipal aid and school aid, drive the property taxes further up. It's at such a chronic state at this point in time that it is that breaking point that I'm hopeful we're going to have that backlash that we need to propel us forward.
Somebody was just recently proposing an obesity tax. Who was that?
Patterson.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Was that directed at me?
You got the message. I don't know if Fielder Van Dyke was looking your direction.
It's per palace. In terms of New Jersey, I think it's up to us as activists to make sure that we get out the word that Corzine is bad for the economy. Just look at what's happened. Hopefully, the breaking point that this gentleman mentioned is here. On IT aspects of campaigning, that we're trying to catch up right now. And so I think social networking sites like Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, all of this stuff.
Where's that?
Yeah, it's where it's going to have to be. I mean, fortunately, we have been the party of innovators for a long time, and I think we'll continue to be.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.